This is Jim Verniere. I'm the film critic for the Boston Herald, and this is the first installment of La Dolce Cinema. Before we get started, let me say one thing. I didn't get into this business to stand in front of a camera. I got into this business to write about people, other people who stand in front of cameras. But here we are. We have a website, and La Dolce Cinema is now officially launched. The big film this week is The Other Guys. It's Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg comedy. It's kind of a spoof on mismatched buddy cop movies. It's in it, Ferrell plays a guy who's a desk jockey, an accountant for the New York City police. Wahlberg is a New York City detective who accidentally shoots Derek Jeter, ends up banished to the desks. The two of them eventually get involved in chasing down a Bernie Madoff kind of fund manager, and there are a lot of shootouts and explosions and chases, but the problem is that the film's not really all that funny. The Other Guys was directed by Adam McKay, who's directed several of Will Ferrell's most successful films, including Talladega Nights and Anchorman and Step Brothers. For Ferrell, The Other Guys is sort of an attempt at a comeback after last summer's dud, Land of the Lost. You know, Wahlberg, who isn't really known for comedy, is quite funny in several scenes. There are scenes involving Eva Mendes, who plays Will Ferrell's way too hot wife, and Wahlberg keeps saying to her, "Who are you?" No, really, who are you? It's really quite a funny scene. But you know, as I said, the film is a spoof on mismatched buddy cop films, and if you think about the classics of that genre, that would be like Walter Hill's 48 Hours and the Richard Donner Lethal Weapon series. Those films were actually very funny to begin with. Eddie Murphy's hilarious in 48 Hours. If you haven't seen it, please rent it. And Mel Gibson, you know, who's known these days for leaving, you know, sort of toxic messages on people's phone voicemails, he's very funny in some of those Lethal Weapon films. And Joe Pesci, of course, was brought in to be a comic foil in the later films. Wahlberg is fun here. He was, and I understand that Adam McKay liked his work in The Departed, which has a strong comic element in the opening scenes of the film, and that's why they got the idea of casting him opposite Ferrell. You know, it's not a terrible movie. It's entertaining, but it's just not really that great. That's my problem with The Other Guys. Also this week, there's a charming little Irish film called Kisses from a young filmmaker. Well, we're not quite sure how young he is. His name is Lance Daly. The film's won many awards, and it's unusual for several reasons. First of all, it starts out in black and white, warms to color, and then fades back to black and white at the very end. It has subtitles so that the semi-intelligible Irish accents, you know, which really are very thick in this film, will be intelligible to non-Irish audiences, and it really helped a lot. And it features debut performances by two child actors who were 11 and 12 years old when they shot this film, which was a few years ago, and they play 10 and 11-year-old characters. They play next-door neighbors who live with equally dysfunctional families who decide on Christmas Eve to run away from home together. And it's sort of a modern-day fairy tale. In fact, the more I think about it, the more it is a modern-day retelling of Hansel and Gretel. They find a friendly dredger captain who takes them along a canal to Dublin. They live on the outskirts of Dublin. They have a wonderful and also very dangerous and sort of dark evening in Dublin. They buy themselves sweets. They skate around the city streets. It's almost like a ballet. They encounter various people. They're there to look for the boy's older brother who ran away from home 2 years earlier. It's really enchanting. The children are terrific. And it's beautifully shot for like no money. It reminded me quite a lot, although the plot isn't similar, but it reminded me of the Irish film from a couple of years ago, Once, from John Carney, which was a real surprise hit. And if you liked Once, you're going to like Kisses.